Good day. I hope you're doing really well as you're watching this video. It's an early morning, so I don't want to be too loud, only because the stillness is really nice this morning. And I don't know if you can hear the birds, or I wish this had like smell-o-vision and feel-o-vision, because air's a little cooler this morning and it's not so humid yet. So anyway, just take all that in with me. My name is Tracy Brown. I'm a somatic dietitian and a tuned eating specialist. And on Monday in our video, we talked a lot about where do we get our toxic and dysfunctional views around food and our food fears from, and to understand, because that stuff usually happened at vulnerable times in our life when we were very, lack of a better word, just vulnerable to not trusting our own self, because we're still learning how to be a human, is that we're often left with like, well, okay, if that language of healthy versus unhealthy doesn't help me eat in a more attuned way, or if labeling food as junk or bad makes me feel bad, then like, well, how do I talk about food? And how do I get there to a little bit more attuned way? So this is what today's video about. So let's jump in and get started. So again, you have your background. I had you do your history of where did you get your toxic food views that actually make you feel reactive and triggered and all that. And recognizing that, again, I'm not saying that all foods work. When I say work, meaning like, oh, I digest this well, it gives me good energy, it comes in, it goes out like on a daily basis, I'm good. I'm not saying that that's the case for every food, for every person, in every circumstance. What supportive eating means is that I'm looking at my current situation and choosing the best food from what I have available, from what my body is telling me. And so, for example, there's all kinds of ways in which a meal could have different food choices and still be supportive. So, for example, let's say you wake up and you have a little hunger and you know you need to probably eat something because you're a little hungry and the day's getting started and you don't really know what's going to happen next. And you do know that if you don't eat now, you're going to be raging hungry in like 2 hours. So probably the most supportive thing to do, depending on the task you have next, would be to take some time to look at what you have best available and tune in. Like, well, I don't really have a strong preference that it has to be fruit, or does it have to be cereal, or does it have to be something hot or cold? I don't really have a strong preference. So honestly, at that point, you might as well pick something that has a higher nutrient density, only because either way doesn't matter that much to you. Might as well. Now, other mornings, it could be very strong, clearly, I need carby food, and chocolate chip pancakes sound perfect. And yeah, I'm not having it with the peanut butter on it today because I'm not feeling that. But sometimes you might put the peanut butter on it because you know that gives you a little bit more lasting energy. But some days that's going to feel like, well, that's kind of going to ruin my pancakes. I don't want that. So that's supportive eating. You are really tuning in to all the factors of your circumstance, meaning taste, preference, time, what you have available, how much time you have available, and looking at if there's a strong preference or if there's not, and letting that be okay, trusting that, like, let's say you have something really carby, that trusting that like later on the day at some point you're not going to want the same amount of carbiness because the body doesn't want too much of any one thing. How do we get that level of trust is what people ask me next. It's like, well, how do I trust that's what's going to happen? And I tell people to remind themselves, like, look, when we come from a place of mistrust that our bodies are just this incontrollable blob of chaos, that's lacking the knowledge of the physiology of, like, our bodies do need protein, carbs, and fat, and are going to ask for it in different proportions based on our current physiology. So it's not like there's no information being given, but if we're stuck in our head, we are going to miss the cues and the subtle signs. And so what that means is to really listen to those cues. We have to work on, like, okay, what's my agenda for my eating? Is my agenda for my eating to change my body, which will make me into a mental calculator of trying to figure out how to eat less in a day somehow? Or am I trying to be on my body side and ask it for information and look more deeply into to this wisdom that we were given. And so that, in a nutshell, supportive eating. And those are some questions to ask yourself if you're not sure, like, how am I gonna get there? And it's really about dropping the agenda to change the body. And if you can put that aside even 25%, you're going to get a lot more information that will help you make food decisions. And so lastly, as we kind of turn the page to our next video come up on Friday, I want you to consider this. This is your little call to action, is that where do you notice that supportive eating is actually more accessible to you? Is it in the morning, the daytime, the evening? And how come? Do you find that like some days are just better than others? And can you investigate like, well, what else is happening or taking up space from me and my connection with my body? So if you answer some of those questions, then you'll see some of the barriers, and that's something we can work on in sessions, or some of you, if you're following all my other work and the videos I'm doing, as all of those things give you nuggets as to like how to proceed with that. So as I wrap up here, remember for Friday, there's a Q&A Friday about all your questions about supportive eating. Lay it on me in terms of different situations, conditions, all those kind of things. And we're going to talk about a few things that the instances where we do need some like nutrition, scientific information to help us make supportive choices, but it's not all as hard as we make it out to be. In fact, I work with people a lot of times who have chronic illness or let's say like functional gut health issues, and yeah, I'm making some food suggestions, but it's in a totally different way than the authoritarian kind of way that we're used to submitting ourselves to. So be looking at that for Friday's video. If you have questions about it, you can pre-ask them ahead here in this thread, and I will get to them and answer those questions live on Friday. If you want to private message me, you can do that as well. And in the meantime, I hope that everybody who's watching this replay gets a chance to kind of answer some of the questions I asked in the video, and I would love to hear your answers below. And as always, please pass this along to friends that you hold dear in your heart. They could use some help with reframing how we talk about food and coming to the table in a different kind of way. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.